Hey everyone, welcome to our Bible study through the book of Philippians. This is going to be a video focused on reading, specifically the very last part of chapter 1, verses 27 through 30. So the first thing that we want to do whenever we read a text is actually read the text.
Only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ,
so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you, and that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel,
and not frightened in anything by your opponents.
This is a clear sign to them of their destruction, but of your salvation,
and that from God.
For it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake.
Engaged in the same conflict that you saw I had and now hear that I still have.
Perfect. So whenever we read, we follow a methodology through the reading that helps us to see what is going to be important for our understanding of the text. So the first thing that we do is we look for repeated words. I like to call them focus words. And don't forget, we have to think about the passage not just in these four verses that we're talking about today, but as a whole. So take out your black pen if you're following along with us. Look at your text and you can underline these things with me. This is what I underlined in black. I underlined the word life in verse 27 because it relates to live that we've talked about in verse 21. Different word, but the same kind of idea. So I went ahead and underlined that. Underlined Christ as well, because, like we always say, he's going to be repeated a lot in the New Testament. It's sort of the main focus. If we don't get that right, we're definitely missing out on something. Really important word in verse 27 also is the word one. Verse 27 is kind of long in this text, but the word one, which is repeated twice, is important. And then gospel, we're going to see throughout this text as being very important. The next thing that we would do is circle statements about God in black. And the one that I circled was from verse 28. And it actually says, and that from God. This is something for us to put together a little bit more in the understanding video that's going to come up next. Last in black, we box transitions. And there's a few very important ones in here. The word or the phrase so that in verse 27. Phrases like so that gives us the why of what was just said before. And here's the cool thing about noticing transitions. As I was studying this passage and I was going through this and reading it, I noticed that simple word and in verse 28 where it says and, where it says that your salvation and that from God. It actually drew me to see that statement that I circled about God. So these are important for us to look at. Additionally, the word for in verse 29, another word that connects two ideas, expanding on what Paul had previously said. You want to look for things like that in the text. Those so that's, those fors, those ands, those buts, those kind of things. Those words really help tie a text together. I talk about them a lot. Then we look to blue. We take our blue pen, if that's what you use. If you use a different color, that's on you. But we use our blue pen, and we need to underline any unfamiliar words. Now, I'll be honest, in these four verses, I found the language to be pretty obvious. If you didn't, that's cool. Underline the things that you need to underline and go ahead and look up the definitions of those words so that you know what they mean. We also, and this is a really big part, probably the most important part of this text, we number points made in a row. This is going to be a big deal here. So look at verse 27. We see standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. It may be better to actually put the with one mind in the first point. That could be interesting there. And then 3, not frightened anything. There's 3 affirmations, of what should be happening. That's definitely a list there. And then again in verse 29, we see a list, 1 being believe in him, and then 2, suffer for his sake. We're going to find that that's going to be critical. In our next video, we'll talk more about that. And then confusing ideas. In verse 28, I focused on clear sign to them of their destruction. There's a few things in here that I think we will definitely work out and talk about through this whole text in the next video. So whatever you focused in on, that's going to be good. You're going to want to then formulate questions from those kind of things. So take a moment, make notes on your paper there. Make the notes in red or whatever color you like to use. What questions has this generated? Here's how do we stand firm in one spirit? What is striving for the faith of the gospel, right? Verse 28 has some strange wording. Let's be sure to dig into that, right? Things like that. And then one more thing, and I haven't yet pointed this out in a video. I've talked about it in passing. But circling action words in red. Now, when I say an action word, I don't necessarily mean every action verb that you see, but really the action words that are pertaining to the people who are reading the text. So here he's writing to the Philippian church, and he gives them these action words, standing and striving. That's something for them to do. That's the kind of action that we want to draw our attention to. So thanks for watching. Please continue working through Philippians with us. And in our next video, we will seek to understand the passage. We'll see you later.